Adrift is an immersive first-person experience that sees you play as an astronaut who finds herself in danger. Adrift is a game developed by 310 and has been designed for virtual reality, but also can be played without a headset. Adrift comes out on Oculus Rift and non-virtual reality platforms on March 28th. Walking simulator style games have become extremely popular with the likes of Gone Home, Firewatch and recently Layers of Fear, all of which offer something slightly different, whether it's horror, suspense or simply great storytelling. Adrift has been designed for VR and seems like the perfect kind of a game to experience in that format. I only played the game in non-VR, but it was still a fantastic experience. The year is 2037 and you awake all alone on a space station that seems to have suffered some sort of catastrophe. You find yourself floating helplessly with debris around you and no sense of what has happened. I was instantly reminded of the film Gravity with Sandra Bullock and felt a sudden sense of loneliness and panic. Then you hear a voice in your helmet that states your EVA suit or EVA suit has been damaged and now is using backup emergency oxygen reserves. It instantly becomes clear that you need to find more oxygen as soon as possible and somehow repair your suit. Across the screen shows your various stats, including your oxygen levels, which are quickly depleting. You can also see large cracks spidering across your visor. I enjoy how the game instantly throws you in at the deep end with a real sense of urgency. The movement in the game is slow-paced and methodical, but has high stakes, making things feel exhilarating and intense. You are playing as Commander Alex Oshima, and you have the ability to float and explore anywhere you like, but to not only survive, but also to explore and find out what happened to the space station. It soon becomes clear that you are the sole survivor, hence the number 1 in the title of the game. When oxygen levels become critical, your vision starts to become blurred, and you must find a floating oxygen canister as soon as possible. You can use your scanner to survey the area and locate key points of interest, like terminals, door keys, and oxygen chests that have oxygen tanks nearby. Unused oxygen tanks subtly flash green so that you can see them helplessly floating off in the distance. Along the way you'll discover human stories of her crew, like Andrew, who never got to make it back to her daughter. You find audio tapes that give much more depth and insight to the various characters. These are touching, personal, and work very well to flesh out the narrative. This really reminded me of the game Gone Home, and I was surprised just how much these simple storytelling methods made me feel part of that world, and what it would be like to experience that situation. You find yourself moving through 5 areas, which are full of interesting things to see and places to explore. The game has puzzle elements which require you to think about where you need to head, what you need to do, all whilst keeping an eye on your oxygen levels and where to find your next canister. Players will also find artifacts from the dead crew and must decide whether to return them home. The game is said to have 2 main objectives: to survive and to return home safely. The controls in the game are pretty tricky to start with, but after a short tutorial and some practice I began to get a grip of how it works. I played the game using a mouse and keyboard, and it sees you using the usual movement keys as well as Q and E to roll side to side. You use left shift to boost, left mouse click to rise up, and right click to move down. The F key is used to interact with objects and open doors. The game does a great job of slowly introducing these gameplay mechanics, and before long it started to feel like part of my muscle memory. You'll quickly learn to be sparing with your boost, as these rapidly deplete your battery and oxygen supply. Being gentle with your boost also keeps the game slow paced, letting you take in the stunning scenery. The most vital part of the game is keeping your oxygen levels up as you float through each area. It can feel desperate at times, and you can see a canister floating off in the distance, not knowing if you have enough oxygen to get you there, let alone if there's another beyond that. Actually being able to grab one of these canisters is almost like a mini-game itself, and you have to carefully maneuver yourself towards it while holding down the F key to reach out and attempt to grab it. The first few times, I found myself helplessly floating past them, desperately trying to grab it. After a few attempts, I became better at picking up the oxygen tanks and navigating the world. You can also click on the mouse scroll wheel to automatically move back to the upright position. I look forward to seeing how the game experiences in VR, and I feel like the game will be well suited for that format. Once you get a hang of the controls, you must start exploring the space station and the game's narrative. You make your way through various terminals that help instruct you on what you need to do. The space station is intriguing and interesting to explore, with varied areas like small cylinder where plants and bright green leaves grow in 360 degrees around you. Parts of the ship have been torn open and you see the Earth in the distance, which looks utterly stunning. For the most part, you're exploring claustrophobic rooms, but it would then suddenly open up to reveal stunning views. This is where the game shows just how beautiful it is. The game has no combat and focuses on creating an immersive experience that sees you exploring beautiful, interesting and varied areas that are wonderfully designed. I often found the game would lull me into a false sense of security with beautiful visuals, and then reality as it becomes a race against time to save my life. The minimalistic sound design works fantastically and truly makes you feel alone in this desperate situation. It feels oddly comforting when you come across various audio logs that kept me immersed. The only real issue I had with the game was at times it was a little unclear of where I was supposed to be heading. I found this frustrating, but I could also see it helps add tension and a sense of loneliness and confusion as oxygen tanks begin to run out. I was running the game on max settings on PC and it crashed once, which doesn't seem like much of a huge problem. Overall, I loved my time playing through Adrift, which is only around 4 hours long. These days, with games striving to be bigger, longer, huge open world experiences, it's nice to be able to sit down and play through a compact experience that is well designed. The game does a great job of using environmental storytelling, much like Gone Home and more recently, Firewatch. The controls are tricky at first, but once you learn how to guide yourself through each area, it does feel like you're in space, and it feels great. The graphics are impressive, and the world around you simply looks stunning. It's a harrowing, desperate and claustrophobic experience that I truly enjoyed and highly recommend you give a go if you like games like Firewatch, Gone Home or other first-person experience type games.